So, hi everybody, it's Charlie Sell from the Arrows Group here, running our Future Tech podcast series aimed at graduates studying STEM, looking either going into their university courses or looking to leave. I'm interviewing thought leaders, experts around the world, CTOs, to give their thoughts and for us to hear a bit about their story. So, I'd like to welcome Jonathan Moreira,
Hello, Charlie.
Hi there. Ex-CTO of PrimaryBid, and throughout his career has worked at the BBC, Discovery Channel, Accenture, to name a few. So for someone so young to have got to such senior roles, I'm sure your story is going to be pretty interesting on how you got there, and obviously then talking about your thoughts on technology and go from there. So welcome, Jonathan. Thanks for taking this up. How are you today?
I'm good. She had a fresh haircut, so that always helps, you know.
Yeah.
My first haircut since quarantine.
Oh, same here actually. Yesterday, so we're both looking sharp. Huh?
It's good. It feels good to go back to normality, right? It does feel good, you know.
Absolutely.
That is great.
So yeah, tell us a bit about your story then. It's been pretty rapid, hasn't it?
So yes, I'm what I call some early risers in my career. Being called that by more than a few people, and I never understood really why. I've been a developer since I'm 12 years old. I started my career by playing Pokemon games, and then I was like a Pokemon geek. And then I was like, oh, I want to have my own. I used to go to fun sites. And it's like I want to have my own fun site, and then that drive of wanting to have my own fun site, kind of incentivized me to like, okay, I need to learn PHP. At that time, it was how to create a forum. It was bulleting. I learned PHP, then learned HTML, then learned CSS. And as a kid, you have all the time in the world, right? And so even though it was quite hard at the time to find information, I made a time, and I was also quite driven by me wanting to have my own forum and own the community myself, and that really got me into IT. And then as well, playing video games got me into cracking and then into security as well, which then it really plays out later in my career, having had an interest in security, into cracking, and not only in development, because it really shaped the way I developed and the way I architect things, because I always play a huge emphasis in making sure that it's secure, making sure that nobody's gonna ever be able to hack into this, and knowing from the person that tries to look for vulnerabilities, it's a lot easier to have a master how to prevent that, and how to as well now educate people around the things that you need to know in order to make sure that your code is secure and your architecture is secure. So, but then I studied something completely different, right? I'm a psychologist, so I study psychology.
Okay, quite a pivot from technology.
I know everyone's like, how did you end up in psychology? Like, no, how do you end up in IT from a psychology? And it's actually the other way around, because I've been a developer from very early age. So I guess one of the key things to know about IT is like, it doesn't really matter where you study, because everything will change every 6 months or every year. There's a new library, there's a new version of your language, and really your passion to learn those languages, your passion to keep evolving and keep being interested is what's going to keep you in the market, is what really going to make you be different from another person. So you need to be willing to do a lot of self-learning, and thanks to that, I've been able to study psychology and still be able to secure jobs in IT, and having had work, for Accenture and for Discovery Channel, some of my first placements. And it was all thanks to my nights of coding and my weekends of coding, and I have working in different GitHub projects, and that really kept me fresh into how to do things.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
Yeah, fantastic. And well, I love that. The doing psychology but keeping IT as your backbone throughout everything you've done Is there anything that you can relate to across the two? Anything you learned from psychology that has really helped you when you've been building your teams or thinking about technology?
To be honest, I think psychology has had a really positive impact into how I think doing any other type of career aside of the main career that you have, like studying something different, whether it's chemistry, mathematics, psychology, allows you to see the problem from a different angle.
Yeah.
So it just gives you the out of the box mentality. So in terms of psychology, it really helps me when I'm building teams. It really helps me when I'm dealing with, stakeholder management. When I'm maybe developers have passionate sometimes arguments about, how to do something. So it really helps you to position those arguments in a better way and be able to solve those conflicts better. Just think my psychology or coach people. How do you coach people to mentor them, So I guess that really helps.
Yeah.
But in general, I think like if someone studies, you will add a different way to solve the problem. You will have a different view, and that has a lot of value in its own.
Yeah. And so your last few years, because as I said, your career has sort of done this, this rising star, as you said earlier. How did you move from role to the other? Has it been through networking or headhunting? What's been your trajectory?
To be honest, I was headhunted in some of my roles. Yes, I was working first for a small digital agency called Sequel Group, and then from then I went and I worked for Accenture. Accenture handed me. I went through the interview process. Then I grew through the ranks in Accenture, and then after some time, I think it was me keeping updated with my LinkedIn, keeping that fresh, making sure as well that I kept, even though I had a job, I used to study every night and every weekend about the things that my job was not giving me. So when new opportunities came, I had experience to be able to go into a more senior role very quickly, because I was just not learning from my job. I also was learning more things on my free time, which then allowed me to progress to other jobs. And so then when I got hunted for the senior roles, I was able to effectively talk around them and demonstrate experience around them, because I had something to complement that as well, right?
Yeah.
I had that drive. And so I guess the advice that I will give to any student or anyone that's really looking for a job is what you do in your free time really influences how you're going to progress in your career. You cannot expect that your current job is going to give you everything you need for your next role. So take your current role that you have, if you have one, smash that, but then keep studying for the role that you want. If you want to be more senior, if you are a junior developer, you want to become senior, keep doing more projects and more complex projects, on your own time, if your current job is not giving you that. If you are a senior developer, you want to become a tech lead, start learning more about architecture in your free time, and getting more of that. Because if your current role is not currently giving you that, so start. If your current role doesn't give you the skills of where you want to be, find it.
Yeah.
And if you do that, you are gonna get those jobs, those interviews, those opportunities, and don't be afraid to fail. Like I didn't get every single job I ever went to. I didn't get not every interview was perfect, but ultimately my approach to going to an interview, especially in my early career, was, what do I need to know? It's like, because different people will want from you different things, but ultimately once you go to enough interviews, you understand how to position your experience, but also what do you need to go home and study.
Yeah.
Because you will ultimately see that there is a common denominator of what people want from you. And if you invest time of your own time in learning and developing yourself, you will be for your next interview, you will have an answer.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, when I sit on the other side of the table, you're spot on in that regard. And practice makes perfect. As cheesy as that sounds, It really is true, isn't it? So, oh, great. And then thinking about emerging technologies, because it's something that everyone has a view on, and the world is changing at a million miles an hour. When you navel gaze and think about when you're building your teams or you're road mapping your next projects, what do you foresee as the next generation of technology and
I think in terms of sector, I think we're really gonna see a shift into AI. Maybe a post-lockdown world could also really take us away into a VR world as well, in the way we interact with each other. Maybe we see a shift in both of them. How AI, it's gonna really decentralize certain things or automate certain jobs. Certain jobs might stop to exist or might evolve into something better. And if COVID times really come to stay, we might see more VR products. People want to consume while being at home. So I think those are two cool areas that could really impact the future, depending how our current trends really go.
Yeah.
Because if you think about, people are working from home a lot more nowadays, and that is becoming a trend. When you see Facebook saying that people can work from home. You see Fuji as well, a big company, saying that people can work from home as well. So you start seeing a lot of multinational companies that you can work from home. So I guess this is going to be a huge change in the shift of how people, approach their work and how they consume certain products as well. Yeah. So I think those are technologies and ways of working as well that can really change and shape our future.
Yeah. Again, AI and VR has just been, you've seen the rise in it. The thing that I was speaking to someone the other day around how important data is, and big data, to get AI actually to reach its full potential and beyond. Thinking about big data and serverless technology to actually host all of this, so that we can actually feed these technologies. Have you seen much in that yourself when you're thinking about data and what that feeds in?
I have worked in big data companies. So I've been blessed to work in a company where we ingested all NHS patient data, and we did a massive ETL process. We had a lot of, it's very fascinating when you work with big data, because especially when you work with NHS, because you can't really see a lot of the information. You have a lot of Chinese walls between who can see what. There is a different type of architecture. There is a different type of bug tracking. There is a different type of hosting, the infrastructure and consumption of that data. So I think big data is a big thing, and how we utilize the big data is going to be key, but also making sure that big companies utilize that with a good purpose, right?
Right.
We can clearly see how in the wrong hands it can be possibly not be used in the best way.
And I suppose that's where cyber also comes back into it as well. Then you mentioned earlier that that was something that you had an interest in, and I guess they're all sort of interlinked, aren't they? Cyber security with data to sort of support AI.
You have to, the thing is, the more data you hold about people, the more secure you have to be. And it's a very tough balance, depending for any size of organization, because it doesn't matter how much money, how much you put in investing in security. Any developer can introduce a vulnerability. So it's making sure you educate developers from very early in their careers about what is an SQL injection, what are the IOWASP, what the most common attacks that software companies can have, and trying to teach them around, okay, this is a JavaScript injection, this is an SQL injection, okay, this is how people can penetrate your servers, okay, this is an Apache or an Nginx vulnerability, how to patch often, what are the things that you need to do for your version control, release management, also dependencies. A big part of nowadays of the vulnerabilities come on the number of dependencies that some of the language have. For example, Node is a big one, and Python as well, because to build in those technologies, you are required to have a lot of dependencies of other projects, and those projects could have vulnerabilities. Maybe your code doesn't have a vulnerability, but this particular middleware that you're injecting has a vulnerability into your code.
Yeah.
And you never know. Maybe the version that you assessed or you trusted doesn't have one, but maybe the next version has one. You know, like there was a famous case not long ago where, you know, people used to use a middleware for Node.js, and this middleware was a Bitcoin miner. You know.
Really?
Yeah. So and it was smoothly introduced in the in the dependency of the dependency. So it is one of those things that maybe it's not the dependency itself, maybe that dependency also has dependencies, and it's on that tree that your vulnerability stays. So you also need to be very careful about as and when you use certain languages that require some middleware, you know, to make sure that those are solid. And the more corporate they are, maybe the more solid are going to be, because their dependencies are going to be built in house rather than having a massive tree of all the dependencies of dependencies of the dependency.
Yeah, super interesting. And, you know, I think again, and that leads us probably quite nicely to thinking about future roles out there. You know, where are the rising jobs when graduates are soon to be leaving university, and if they've studied STEM degrees? Do you have a view on where you think the next sort of the flux of roles are in the market?
I think in terms of IT, I think you can never go wrong. I think in any language that you want to learn, you will find a role, whether it's C#, whether it's Java, whether it is Python, PHP, or Node.js, HTML, or JavaScript. It all has an added value. I think are we cognizant maybe not to learn technologies that are too immature, you know, like there's always a new language, and it's great to have a new language, but if you're looking for a job, you need to understand that sometimes companies have used a language, and this is the language of the industry that you want to work on. Like e-commerce can be predominantly probably PHP. You see Magento, you see a lot of those type of CMSs. So that's kind of the language that you want to learn, probably if you want to go into maybe e-commerce. If you want to go to payments or finance, Java and .NET is your go-to language, you know. So you have some industry are depending on certain technologies, and so choose the if you want to learn a language, choose it depending on the industry as well that you want to get. Yes, every language uses a lot of different languages, but they have a one or more than one that are the prevalent ones.
Yeah.
So think around that, depending on where you want to work and what we like to do. Not to say that you cannot learn more than one language, because as you progress in your career, I started with PHP, then I learned C#, then I learned a little bit of Java, then I've done Python, then I became a Node developer. So, and then I've always been full stack. And through my career, I have always started from one to then become a polyglot developer, and now be able to code in multiple languages.
Yeah.
Because once you learn a few languages, one, two languages, you know, for loop is a for loop. You know, then you need to understand how it works. Different languages will have different issues or different ways to solve a problem, but that enriches the way you solve the problem on itself. Because like if you do Objective-C, and then, which is like a C language, it will teach you around, or Java, it will teach you about memory or garbage collection or on all these type of things, whereas PHP will never teach you around that. But if you do come from a PHP background, and then you do Objective-C, or you do C, or you do a language that you need to think around memory consumption, garbage collections, and things like that, is going to teach you even how to improve your PHP code, because you will understand some concepts that a normal PHP developer will not understand, or normal JavaScript developer will not understand, because you understand how does the machine operate with memory, with speed, with efficiency, with latency, you know. And those are some of the key things that big companies like Facebook like to look at.
Yeah. And again, totally agree with you. When we were talking, I think we were talking about a little bit earlier, wasn't it, that this polyglot engineering phenomenon, or what people are saying is the future, but actually, if you've got to become a master of a couple first, so that you've got the depth of experience to then learn 3, 4, and 5, rather than trying to learn all of them 50% and never really master any of them.
Yeah, no. I think as starting your career, you need to specialize in an area, whether you want to be front end, whether you want to be back end. Learn your one language, become good in your one language, learn all the different principles around developing, learn what good architecture looks like, learn about architecture, learn about security. And once you master that to a good senior or tech lead level, then branch to other languages if you want to at the same time.
Yeah.
Well, because you're senior at one language doesn't mean you're going to be senior at the other language. You're going to be junior at the other language because it's a different paradigm.
Yeah.
So be good at one thing, secure that, and then expand over the years, because also it will be more fun for you, I guess, if you have new challenges.
Yeah. And that's a variety. That's the other wonderful thing about technology, isn't it? With it ever evolving, you can forever be learning, I guess, and there's variety in what you do.
Yeah, everything changes every 6 months. There's a new library every other week. There is a new patch of this other thing, and you need to learn every single detail there is, about it. And then nobody cares that you know the previous version, and everyone's like, why don't you just know the version 3? Like, it just came out yesterday. Yeah, but it's the one thing you need to know.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of our industries. Like, it keeps you on your toes, and it keeps you always learning and always evolving and always fresh, because you don't get bored.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. This has been fantastic. Thank you, Jonathan. I mean, it's hopefully this has been of real interest to the guys and girls who are listening to this. I mean, in summary, thinking about AI and VR being future or future technologies, and data and cyber playing such key parts to it. I think it's clear that when you're looking at future jobs, we've got to live in those emerging technologies and not in the past, I guess. And yeah, your thoughts on the current skill sets as well. It's really interesting. So thank you.
Thank you, Charlotte, for giving me the opportunity to be able, to give back to the community, and to maybe inspire someone out there who wants to know how to get into IT, or what should they learn, and how to develop their careers maybe a little bit further.
Yeah, well, it's fantastic. So, well, to everyone, this is the Future Tech podcast series. So again, thank you to Jonathan for his time. It'll be on YouTube and posted throughout your various social media channels. And see you next time.